In a world where news flies around every minute, you need the ability to relate and connect with what matters and stay up to date. Schengen Story Media News Echoes program is Africans in Diaspora and at Home's leading English news network, one of the most trusted, respected sources for news updates on current affairs as they affect global Africa.
Good day, viewers around the world. My name is Mark Godwin Iweajunwa, and you are welcome to SSM Global Africa Update, Wednesday, the 26th of June, 2024. I'm here in Milan, Italy, and as usual, we have our correspondent, our coordinators, different parts of the world. In Lagos, Nigeria is our man, Ogbeni Olayinka Raji. Welcome to Wednesday News Update.
Good morning, Mark, and good morning, viewers across the world. Welcome to our Wednesday program, News Update.
You're welcome. Like we say, what we do here is give out our stories, exclusive reporting, perspective on the day's top news, also checking to scoop on important social issues, and that's what we do. So you're welcome, Raji. Yes, I think for now, while we wait for our other coordinators, it's me and you. Raji, a lot is happening. Let's just run through news updates that is coming in before this time. Number one is the CBN governor says that despite the slump in the Naira, that Naira volatility is over. He's saying this morning. The Naira, it says the worst of Naira volatility is over. So probably the Naira is bouncing back. That's what he's trying to say. Also, this morning, the Senate came out, Nigerian Senate came out strong and said they never proposed any aircraft for the president and the vice. So the Senate president of Nigeria, Akpabio, is telling us that that whole story of a new aircraft for the president and the vice wasn't, it was not coming from them. They never proposed that. Also, we're hearing this morning that there's about $1.4 million that has been linked to former central bank governor Godwin Emefiele. We're hearing this morning that the federal government has been ordered to forfeit that money to the federal government. So a high court in Lagos has ordered the forfeiture of that money, 1.4 million of Godwin Emefiele's money to the federal government. So these are some of the news update that has just come in prior to our coming to the studio. Raji, do you have anything on any of them?
Yes, at least the first two about Naira floater. Is it volatility or floatability or whatever?
Volatility.
The Naira getting any volatile at this point will be suicidal. Okay. The Naira was trading at $500 to $1 when Tinubu came in. It is now almost 1,400 plus. Any other volatility or whatever they call it will be suicidal for the Naira.
Yes.
And don't tell me that the Naira is bouncing back. The Naira is not bouncing back. The Naira is let's move on to what the senators are saying. You know, okay. I have something that I keep on saying to myself about the concept of some concepts of government. Okay. That the more government denies something, the more likely it's going to do it.
It's happening.
So
okay.
Whenever, so I don't want to be skeptical, but I hope that the Senate is saying the truth, and that they are not deceiving the people.
The people.
We are all alive to see it.
We're all alive to see it. Anyway, these are the information we've just got. The Senate said they never proposed any aircraft Like you said, somebody probably just had that and ran with it. You said you talked of the naira volatility. Naira, what Cardoso is trying to tell us is that the naira is bouncing back. Let's hope this will all happen. Okay. Also, there is still one more of that news flash. Okay, I talked of Godwin Emefiele losing $1.4 million to federal government. The High Court says the final forfeiture of that money to the government. Did you hear that one?
Yes, I did. It is not Emefiele's money. It is government money that was misappropriated to him, and which the government is taking back.
It's not Emefiele's money, it's government money.
No,
okay, thank you very much, Raji. Raji, let's do a small break and we'll be back.
SSM's Wednesday Global Africa program brings to you our news stories, exclusive reporting, and SSM perspectives on the day's top news. Plus, the inside scoop on Africa's most important developing stories. Join us on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. West African time.
Yes, Raji, we're here. And joining us in faraway Toronto, Canada is our coordinator, Sir George Chukwu. Sir George, you're welcome to Wednesday Global Africa.
Thank you so very much, Mark Godwin, and thank you so much, Olayinka Raji. What a pleasure to join you all this morning from Toronto, Canada. Viewers from around the world, welcome to our show today. It's going to be a great one.
Yes, indeed. In fact, we started, George, pulling out the updates, good updates. There's one that might interest you, and that is that we talked about it last time here. The Senate said they didn't propose any aircraft for the president and the vice, that the media just ran with it. But they didn't propose that. Also, one of those news that might interest you is the federal government says, a federal high court has said that $1.4 million linked to former Central Bank Governor Godwin Emefiele has been ordered for forfeiture to the federal government. George, some of those news. Also, Cardoso is saying the naira, even though is going through a worse time, but that volatility is over. He says the naira is bouncing back, and George was telling us he wonders how that is happening. Because, so what do you say, George? What are your views on this?
Well, first and foremost, when it comes to the naira situation, naira saga that we're talking about, these people, they believe that maybe when they come out and start talking about things, they believe that those type of positive affirmations and talks might be able to, encourage, the people and the economy. And, but they fail to understand there are principles to follow. And those principles are things that you can manipulate with words. You might encourage people every now and again, but when it comes to their pocket and the strength of naira to purchase things, an international market and all those type of criteria that you have to meet in order for your money to make sense to the people, if you don't feel it, it's going to bounce back after a few days. And that's what's been happening. They're trying to have what you call an inflationary type of force to make the money to change overnight, but it's not, so that's number one. And the thing pertaining to what's his name, Emefiele, nobody has ever said that Emefiele did not do wrong. We know that he did wrong, but but he has a whole lot of tentacles. His branches are all over the place and all over the government, including our former president, whether he likes it or not. And that is the truth. If they tell the truth, he will be implicated also. But though he got immunity according to as far as Nigeria is concerned. But some of these things that are happening right now was actually part of what took place in order to, oust our current president. But Jagaban said, no, it cannot happen in my house.
It cannot happen in my house. Yes, we're happy to have with us the Better Niger conveyor, Femi. Okay, Femi, it's good to see you. I must say that, yes, I must say that you are doing some very massive feats for Nigerians in diaspora, connecting with distinguished leaders in Nigeria and bringing
some of the big shots. Some of the big shots.
For us to hear from them, know what they're doing in their leadership space. What will you say about that, Femi? I know there's something tomorrow too.
Yeah, well, tomorrow we have the PDP candidate Ugodalu, who's going to be in London, and he's meeting the Edo diaspora, the sons and daughters of Edo in the UK. So he's coming to tell, obviously, the diasporans and get their support and let them know what he's going to deliver for them. So as I always say to people, although I'm an APC man, I cover everybody. I'm not biased in that way, and I'm happy to cover the PDP conference and give it a fair look at our outlook, so that people can judge and see themselves. I think we did the one for the deputy governorship candidate for APC already. So we're doing this one now, and hopefully the actual governorship candidate for APC too will come, and we'll hear him as well. And if Akpata also wants to come, we're happy to feature him too, because I think all Nigerians in diaspora need to hear from our leaders.
All Nigerians in diaspora need to hear from our leaders. So there's something we're hearing this morning. Femi, it's good you're here. There's breaking news. The National Assembly has approved the 70,000 naira minimum wage. Now, what we know is federal government had its own fixed minimum wage. That was 62,000 naira. So, but what the House has done, the National Assembly has done, is they added to that. So now I'll start with you, Femi. Does this now put it to stop? Do we now say, okay, let's go with this?
I've always said, in my personal opinion, I've said between 70 and 100,000 naira is the maximum they could have as a minimum wage. However, I believe that the minimum wage law needs to be amended, because we can't have a situation where somebody in Yobe, for example, is going to minimum wage of 70,000, like somebody in Lagos. Their standard of living, their costs are completely disparaged. They're not the same at all. So we ought to break that scenario and break that yoke and say, now we're going to have a new minimum wage, but it's going to be done with state by state or region by region. I think state by state. If you're in the federal government, whatever, if you're in regional, it should be done such that if you're in a specific state, in a specific area, you can't be paid the same as someone in Lagos. Your costs are not the same. We've already seen that agricultural goods are cheaper in certain places, so their cost of living is different. So I think the minimum wage should be reflective. And at the end of the day, I don't see many states are going to be able to pay this 70,000. I'm not sure many private sector companies are going to be able to pay. So I think last time Raji was telling us, and we can ask him, is he going to pay his driver and his Megad and his gardener 70,000 naira minimum wage? I hope he can do that. Or is he going to have to retrench?
Anyway, what we had again is that a similar thing that played out in 2018 is what is playing out now. 2018 to 2019, the federal government had a minimum wage package that was 23,000 naira, but the National Assembly came and said, let's do 30, and that was how they did the 30,000 naira. So, George, do you think this 62 to now 70 could settle it for?
To me, just like Femi, I had suggested that what I believe was an equitable wage was between that 70 and about 95. That's what I said originally. And I felt like the market forces and the environmental, from state to state, like what he was suggesting, the forces will balance it out. As a matter of fact, when it was 30,000 naira, not all states were paying that. They were still paying it was all scattered all over the place. So I think that the market forces will basically balance it out at the end. I hope that the Labour Party, Labour Congress, and the rest of them that has been agitating will accept this one, so we can just move on. But I think is fair. It is fair based on where it came from, based on everything else, like the inflation, the weakness of naira, and everything else that is involved in it. So I think they've done well. But also, when you compare what has been done with the judicial, what has been done with the House and the Senate, and all the money that they are spending, people are still shaking their head. Why are the 1%ers always up there taking care of themselves? Nobody fights them when they want to do an increase. Nobody comes out and say, no, you cannot do it. Even when people are crying out, they will still go and approve it. So that's what the problem is. But if we want to equate it that way, and for them to go out and make that kind of increase for the public, regular small businesses will just fold up, and the inflation, the unemployment will rise. So I think this is actually, is fair. It's fair.
Raji, can you pay 70,000 to your workers?
I do more than that. Depending on their
Raji has said that before. He said it before.
Depending on their qualifications. Now, I agree with the earlier speakers about it, but I want to add that on the government's part, something must be done about the cost of fuel and the tariff on electricity. I think if the cost of fuel could come down to like 400, I think that it will ease a lot of pain all across the country, especially on those who are not even on any wages at all. I think there's something should be done about that. That will reduce transportation costs. That will reduce electricity costs, and then that will be. I've never been somebody for the figures that were being thrown about 70, 100. No, because at the end of it all, they are going to spend the money on transportation, on electricity, on feeding. And if all those indices are still high, no amount of money will be sufficient as a minimum wage.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Raji. Thank you, gentlemen.
As a result of this, also, what we see is, we just talked about this last week regarding, malnutrition that is happening in certain areas. And, so possibly this might kind of ease it off, but I don't think it is going to ease it off. But what is really causing all of these things is what Raji was just talking about. Where on one hand you're trying to give, but on the other hand you're taking, sucking up everything that you have given to them for their daily living. So there gotta be a place where there is balance on the two sides, But I believe that for the current time, because from 30 to 70, I think we've come to a common level of understanding that might profit everybody concerned.
Thank you. So, viewers, that's it. Today, by this evening, we'll know what the agreement comes to. But the National Assembly said they plan to approve that 70,000 naira minimum wage, and the federal government says they will agree to the deal if it's put out. So that's it on that. Let's keep our eyes on that news, gentlemen. Let's come. For those of us in outside Nigeria, this early morning, the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, was expressing sadness over the rate of extortion, the rate of touting in our international airports. And this morning again, the federal government says they are putting 985 million naira for body scanners and some security measures so that we can have less touting. We know touting can be completely eradicated. Femi, you travel, you use Muritala, you use Abuja. How do you feel when you see those things, touting, extortion, immigration officers, security men begging, telling you, oh boy, where money for cola and where money for, all those things they do? Femi, tell us.
They have
I
even
think
changed it. They call it now the love offering. Love offering, Femi.
Love offering.
Love offering.
Love offering.
whatever they call it, I don't really support it, and it puts Nigeria in a bad light. There's a video that's been trending of a lady that went to I think it's Enugu Airport, and she was comparing Enugu to the airport in Ethiopia. That she was checked about 13 times before she could get on the, get through to the other side. You know, when you're going through going to the departures, she had to go 13 different people checking her passport. Whereas in Dar es Salaam or Addis Ababa, she was only checked twice. You understand? So this is it's a problem, and it's part of the economy. People suffering, and they use it as their gunja, every bit money that they can get on the side of their job. I think what we've got, the situation where you got the e points of entry, where you use your passport and you don't even have to speak to an immigration official. That's coming, and that's something that's going to be good. That will reduce it. But when you get to customs, that's another problem. So what we need to do as well is have cameras. I think they need to have CCTV at every point of entry now, all throughout the airport. And those cameras need to be monitored 24/7, so that all these people, there should be no hiding places, and that anybody who's found wanting should be summarily prosecuted and dismissed and prosecuted. Until that happens, and also you got to have what they call well, I don't know what mystery people who are supposedly maybe custom flying passengers, but they're actually internal affairs. So they pretend that they're passengers, and when you do that and say, "Oh, give me this," that's your job. So when people know that their job is on the line, when it happens publicly, it will stop. If it happens every day for a week, a month, and it's a continuous thing, and you don't know when that mystery shopper is going to come, and there's camera evidence, there's also people have got body cams and everything, there's no way they can continue it. So I think they need to bring that thing in. Body cams for the officials, cameras overseeing all the points of entry and wherever you're going to meet up with it, and audio as well, so that you can hear what they're saying as well. And once that starts to happen,
yes. But Femi, George, and Raji, there's something we heard, and that is the guys at the top, the officers, security officers, or the senior officers, are the ones that push these junior officers to do this. They tell them, "Listen, I want social amount before the end of the day. I want this is what we've heard. This is what they're saying." So
it's been going on. It has been going on. Because when you really look into the reason why some of these things Femi is suggesting has not been implemented is because from the top. That's what it is. Now, I tell you one thing. Among all the commissioners and all these federal ministers, Festus Kayamo has gotten 5 stars from me from the very onset, except for a few things. But that young man has done marvelously. And I believe that in his department, he is going to even do more. Because when you listen to him, you will understand that this is a guy that really cares. And he believes in what he believes in and wants to do. So I honestly highly commend Festus Kayamo in what he has done so far, traveling around, just trying to help, local and international, carriers, and trying to balance the equation and putting pressure upon international airlines, in order for these prices, the price of tickets and all that kind of stuff to reduce. So he's been very active, and I really, really highly commend him in a job well done. 5 stars, my brother. Continue doing what you're doing, so I am happy with the outcomes of his office.
Okay. Are you, Raji, now
Yes.
government said they are approving these millions of naira for body scanners, and Femi was telling us they need to do more. But the thing is, corruption is neck deep in Nigeria, all facets of Nigeria, all the ministries, every corner. Is it easy to really stop this, Raji?
Well, there's no way you can stamp out corruption entirely and completely. And I'm sure that even all the suggestions that Femi is talking about has been suggested a long time ago for us to have surveillance cameras on all those locations. But you see, where there's no will, to stamp out certain practices, it is not likely it will be done. Even if it is done, sometimes it may be sabotaged. Yes, but
Oh, but
there's no way you can stamp out. Mhm. Go ahead,
for
George.
example, okay, sorry. For example, many years ago,
Yes.
the police commissioner from Abuja contacted me and a colleague that they are looking for special cameras, video cameras and surveillance cameras, for the federal government, and that they were hearing threats from, Boko Haram, threats from, other sources. And then, so we put together one of the best infrared cameras that we could ever have and took a group of people to Nigeria. While we were there, we showed them and demonstrated how this thing can, it's motion censored. At night, it will capture, even in darkness, you can still capture things. After we did that, these fellows went behind us and wanted to talk to the workers, the white people that we brought there. That's number one. Number two, when they knew that we will not compromise in the quality of the product that we brought back, if they give the contract to us, do you know what they did? The commissioner, the police commissioner himself took all those things and flew to London, from London to China, left us in the hotel, and we were waiting to hear from him. It was his driver who came, who felt so bad, and told me what happened. And guess what? They went and duplicated that thing in China, brought it back. Do you remember when they burned down the UN center in Abuja and burned down the police station in Abuja? Exactly when they started looking on those cameras, it was nothing but empty. There was nothing in it. They couldn't find anything. So that is another area. When you bring quality product, they say no. This one will not need. It will not need a yearly maintenance fees. So that's where they eat from. So we hope this one will not happen.
Yeah.
We will go beyond this for now. Don't you think so? I mean, Tinubu is worried. He's concerned. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, you said that there's a hierarchy of corruption or whatever. That happens in all countries. I mean, they're not collecting money in most airports that you go to. They're not doing it. So there must be a reason why. I think we need to shift. I've always called the civil service the evil service, because they're in it for themselves. They're not trying to help anybody. But I think there needs to be a change in the way that they orientate the civil service. And instead of just be about promotions, they should be giving them for incentives for good service. So if you fast track applications and you move things progressively, and there's less delay in things, you should get a bonus or an incentive. So that incentive will replace the Egunje, if you like. So, and then where you're found wanting, you should be demoted or you should be removed and dismissed. So those things, there must be some incentive for good performance. As it is, I don't know what that is. So that needs to be made transparent as well. So you do good service, you're an excellent customs officer or immigration officer, you'll get bonus at the end of the month. If you're terrible, you're out. So that's what needs to happen. And then they need to have people, so they need to spill the beans. So if there's a hierarchy, people need to spill the beans. It's not just me, it's Oga, and this is how they do it. So they should set Oga up so that he's giving the money to Oga. As he's giving the money to Oga, it's being filmed, and Oga gets prosecuted. Hopefully we won't have another Gandola scenario.
Good talk, but Ben, it's easier said than done. It's hard.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things he highlighted is touting. Touting in many ministries and many parts of Nigeria, many of our strategic places is common. Touting. A lot of people are not officers. They're not supposed to be around that premises, but they're walking around there, extorting people, doing all kind of crazy things. Yes, Raji, you were going to say something.
Yeah, those touts are working for those in office. Probably the policemen there, the security men, the custom people, they are agents. Okay. So that agency thing, I'm not sure, because if you focus on the officer, his agent is working for him. He's not under any any rules. He's loyal to the officer, and there's no way you can connect him with the officer.
There's
And
no
what
way you
happens?
can.
Sometimes,
What
yes,
happens usually? They will collect what they collect from outside, and take those papers directly to
and
the individual, who will now process it
yes,
faster for you, and then give it back to
facilitate.
you,
Yes,
and then if facilitate it, and then you go out, and that's how they do
yes,
it. So that money that he's collecting, some of them belong to the officer inside,
right,
the
yes,
worker inside. So that's how they do it. They have their own individual workers that are out there, scouting to get these things done,
yeah.
so that they will get their cut.
You guys
And
remember
it
also
goes
that.
all the
You
Otherwise, the
way
guys
to the
traveler.
top.
remember. Remember
Sorry,
also that.
otherwise the travel. Sorry, otherwise the
Okay.
traveler will be frustrated by delays and things.
Mm.
So sometimes they deliberately precipitate a situation where the traveler will have no other choice than to go through the agency.
Process in order to facilitate and
Through
move
the
faster.
tout.
That's it.
Yes, yes,
The word is the tout, through the tout. And remember last week we had that whistleblower, federal, the woman in the federal commission tell us millions, thousands of Nigerians that are out, that are supposed to be working in Nigeria are out. They've traveled out, but they are still getting paid. Femi, did you hear that? That's part of this
That is a scandal. That's a scandal that is very definitely evident. So people say they're going on their holiday leave, then they'll extend it and say an extension, then they'll say a medical, blah blah blah. Meanwhile, they're still getting paid. You understand? That's a scandal of immense proportions that needs to be exposed, and in fact, those people need to be prosecuted, and the money is returned. The money needs to be returned. Lots of these. There's a scandal with the national identity card and the NINs. That information is going out. So there's a lot of these scandals, and that's why we say that Nigerians are the worst enemy of Nigeria. It's not the foreigner; it's we are doing it to ourselves. You understand? So we can be complaining all we want, but high prices. Who are the ones that are instilling those high prices? It's Nigerians. You understand? On Nigerians. So lots of things that are happening. Insecurities. Nigerians on Nigerians. Although there's some foreign people as well, but majority of it is Nigerians and Nigerians. We need to be more dedicated to Nigeria and to Nigerians. Love ourselves more and be dedicated to making a better Nigeria. Then, of course, maybe the country will get better. But until then, it remains a lawless country of lawless Nigerians.
It's a matter of the chicken and the hen. You see, most Nigerians don't have any loyalty to the country because the government they have had for so many times does not give them the confidence to be patriotic. To be patriotic. So
all right,
they have
gentlemen.
Nigerians have been forced to. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I want. Listen, I'm enjoying this conversation. I mean, we're like off our topics, but this is it. We're saying relevant things, and Nigerians are listening to us. Maybe it's we that can say this. Maybe it's Femi and George and Raji and myself that can say this the way we say it. And viewers, let's hear more from us on the other end. So see you on the other end, guys.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerian soul are proud to serve our sovereign motherland.
In a world where news flies around every minute, you need the ability to relate and connect with what matters and stay up to date. Schengen Story Media News Echoes program is Africans in Diaspora and at Home's leading English news network, one of the most trusted, respected sources for news updates on current affairs as they affect global Africa.
This is everything you need to marry a Nigerian girl. Her father gave me a list of 39 items which include a live goat. The first place I went was the bulk food market to gather the yam, palm oil, baskets of fruit, and dried fish known as eja osun. And it's not just one yam or liter of palm oil, I am buying large quantities. It was pouring rain and I rented boots to make it through the mud, but it is worth it to marry my beautiful bride. In Nigeria, they practice dowry for marriage paid to the family. In the Yoruba culture, each item is symbolic and not really a payment to the family, but rather proving your worth to marry her. And prove it I did by next heading to the goat market, where I spoke with a house of men to find the meatiest goat. This is the one I picked, and surprisingly, the goat at only $40 is one of the cheapest items on the list. This can't be done in one day, so after the rain cleared, I went to Mushin Main Market to find the kola nut, both bitter and regular, the alligator pepper, the adun, which specifically said I needed to buy plenty, and bottle of raw honey, which symbolizes that our marriage will be sweet. Next, I had to gather biscuits, bulk packs of different drinks, wine, and semen schnapps, as well as a suitcase full of new clothes for my fiancé to prove I can provide for her in the marriage. And lastly, the marriage Bible, as God will always come first. It is possible to pay someone to buy these items, but for me, I wanted the experience myself. Finally, we brought all these items to the family home for the wedding day. It is not easy to marry a Yoruba girl, but my bride is strong, smart, loving, beautiful, and completely worth it.
SSM's Wednesday Global Africa program brings to you our news stories, exclusive reporting, and SSM perspectives on the day's top news. Plus, the inside scoop on Africa's most important developing stories. Join us on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. West African time.
Yes, you're welcome back, viewers. You're welcome, Femi. You're welcome, George and Raji. Let's do some small weather report here. The federal government is issuing a flood alert to Nigerians. About 15 states has been said to.
That's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, Femi, it's going to happen. Adamawa State, Benue, Borno, Jigawa, Kaduna, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Kogi, Nasarawa, Sokoto, Taraba, Zamfara. All of these states have been on the radar now. It's a heavy flood, and we might have some situations here. Femi, how do we? Yes, flooding happens everywhere. The West, here in Europe, but ours gets out of hand. You know, it gets out of hand completely. Our sewage system is poor. Drainage system is poor. I mean, Femi, help us. Tell us.
Look, see, the problem is not just in Nigeria, and it's worse elsewhere. If you're in China right now, in southern China, they've got massive floods, the likes of which we're not even seeing in Nigeria, and they have it all the time. So the problem is a holistic one. What is our waterways policies, and how do we do it? We have agencies. They're just there getting money. I don't see what they're doing. The problem is we have to build more dams, which cost money, which Nigerians don't want to pay taxes for. You know, when people say, what do they want the government, what do they want government money for? What do they want money for? These are things that they need money for, to build dams, to build dikes, to build waterways, to build channels, to build reservoirs. You understand? You're talking about problems with agriculture. One of the problems with agriculture is lack of water during the dry season. All that water that's been drained down off to the Atlantic Ocean could be stored, you know, in reservoirs and diverted to other places so that we can have, you know, dry season farming. But we don't build the reservoirs during the dry season. We don't build the channels. We don't build the dikes to protect embankments. You understand? We're not building more dams. What our local governments, state governments, and not just the federal, should be building dams, dikes, and so on to harness the God-given resources that government is doing. Because if you harness a lot of this water, take it away from the river source, then it reduces the flooding risk. Although flooding will happen inevitably, but it will reduce. I think there's some dams that were supposed to have been built down Mambila, because there's a dam in in Cameroon, that every rainy season they have to release it, because if not, you know, that dam will break and that will cause even more havoc. So when they release it, we're supposed to have a subsequent dam downstream to contain the water so that, you know, it can act as another break before it gets further on. But we didn't build it. You understand? And these are the monies that we need. But when we talk about government as not having enough money, people in Nigeria say, there's enough money, there's loads of money. I keep telling people, the federal government budget is about less than $30 billion for 230 million people. It's completely inadequate. We need to be spending to really big up our infrastructure, a minimum of $100 billion annually to really change Nigeria. If it's roads, electricity, water, transport, schools, hospitals, this is what we need to be focused on. Our colleague there is in Canada. If you go and ask him what they're spending in their state, just his one state alone, it's in the hundreds of billions maybe. Nigeria for 230 million is spending 32 billion. It's ridiculous. And remember, most of the stuff we need is imported. Even if we're going to do all these dams, all the components are going to be imported. Even if we want to start producing locally, many of the factory components still have to be imported. So we need to start thinking out of the box. We need to really change the way we're doing things because,
George,
environment impact.
Femi has spoken very impressively.
You have spoken highly, very, very well. But there is an Italian, there is an Italian word that says ceteris paribus, which means all things being equal. Okay? Now, all things being equal on a good day, when the 1%ers and the 3%ers realize that the money they have been stealing from our coffers and the money they have been siphoning from different areas, when they realize and close those loopholes, now we can, comfortably talk about taxes and people refusing to, because most of the people don't feel like they should be paying taxes. Number one, simply because most of the money that is being, look at MFLA and all the saga going on with it. Look at every other area. The 3%ers and the 1%ers, they are very, very comfortable. They're not feeling anything. The house is still paying themselves hardship money, and you're talking about these things. Some of the money that are supposed to take care of these things are being budgeted and are being spent under the table, but it's not going to do the work. That's one of the things that we need to face in our country. We're talking about corruption. It's all the way from the bottom to the top. So when we close these loopholes and ensure that the money that is going to be paid in taxes are going to be equitably and fairly used, then we can talk about fixing all these things. Because sometimes you go to the house, if we do a forensic accounting of our federal government and the money that and the budgets and how it's being spent, you will find out that some of these things are still embedded in things that they are getting money for, but it's not being used. So that is one of the major problems. So now what you are saying is 100% correct. But there are some principles and things that needs to be done in order to correct this money being spent equitably and fairly, and not into people's private pockets or paying, school fees for their children for eternity, abroad, and then coming up in here, a student is driving Lamborghini, from Nigeria because the father is working for the government. It's unfair and it's unacceptable. So let's fix the internal issues.
It's unacceptable. Raji, you align with that. Is that correct? Okay.
To some extent, to a large extent, but sometimes when people say you have to think outside the box, I don't know where the box is, and I don't know whether I'm inside the box or outside the box. So no, I'm being realistic. I agree with Sir George that yes, if we had a body, an independent body, to do a forensic audit of all our expenditure, of all our budgets, at least in the last 20 years, I think we'll go a long way in clearing certain things. Let's just do a forensic audit of our debts. So we are owing so much. What have we been doing with it? How did the money come in? Did the money actually come in? And were they applied? How were they applied? All those things. We need to do.
Remember, last week on Monday we were talking about consumers' credit, how Nigerians are living on credit, and CBN is complaining.
Yes.
Everybody, Femi, that's the news. I know you had that too on Monday. That everybody is on credit, everybody's borrowing, the consumer credit has jumped so high, And it's a sad thing too to hear that. Okay, guys, let's move on. Let's move on to some other news. So that's it. Beautifully, we're going to there's that organization they have, the Southern Governors Forum. FEMO, Dapo, Abiodun is now the chairman, and Charles Soludo is the vice. Now, why I'm bringing this up is because that should be a very, very powerful forum. You know, very, very strong. They should be able to come up with policies. They should be able to do things that will really affect and help the southern part of Nigeria. Femi, let me come to you. Dr. Abiodun is the chairman of the Southern Forum, and Charles Soludo is the vice. Strong people, intelligent people. So what do you think? You think it will be a good one? Progress has come to the south?
Well, Dr. Abiodun is the governor of my state, so you know that's a good thing for him. I wish him well. I think he's one of the most senior governors right now. Soludo most probably coming after. But let's look at previous proclamations from the southern governors. We had, prior to the 2023 general elections, they came out and said that, what did they say? Power must shift to the south, isn't it? And yet one of their own decided to be the vice presidential candidate of who? A northern governor. So that tells you everything you need to know about these forums. They're just there for the show and jamboree. Whether they actually come out with, I mean, sometimes they do certain things like when they said the open grazing must stop. When some in Southwest, they decided to have Amatekun. So they can do things. What they should be focused on now, to be honest with you, if you want my true thing, is how to secure the South and how to make food abundantly available and affordable for South, and make the South start producing food for themselves. Because right now we're relying on the North, and the North is in turmoil. They've got bandits, they've got kidnappers, they've got insurgency, they've got farmer herder crisis, all sorts of crap happening in the North, and we're relying on the North. Meanwhile, some of the most fertile ground in Nigeria is in the South. What are we doing? We're just allowing it to follow. Everyone wants to go to the city, wants to be an urban, guru. Meanwhile, there's no jobs in the city. There's no jobs for them. Meanwhile, there's lots of money to be made from farming. So the governors need to reorientate themselves to get their citizens to start, the president said he wants to dedicate, 100 hectares of land or whatever, however many hectares it was per state, 1,000 hectares or whatever it is per state. How many of those have been deployed? How many of them are functioning? We can't, no tomatoes growing in the South, no peppers growing in the South, no onions, cattle are not being grazed in the South. All the basic food ingredients that you need as a Southerner should be local. They should be made and grown local. And then if you need extra, you get from the North. That's what should be happening. And then when they've got, also when the seasons are wrong, when it's not happening for them, we can supply them. And when they're in abundance, they can supply us, because we don't have to have the same season. We don't actually grow things at the same time because of the climate change and the way things happen. So you can have a cross changing. So when they're giving us tomatoes, we're giving them something else. So when they don't have tomatoes, we can give them tomatoes. So these are the things. I don't know what we're doing in Nigeria. And everyone keeps looking to federal government, the presidency. This is ridiculous. It's Nigerians that are going to grow it, not the president, not the governor. Nigerians have to grow it. And the governors need to direct them with policies and make it easy for their citizens to be able to deploy. It took me over 5 years to get the farm that I have in Ogun State. So that shows you what I'm talking about. And I have to thank Governor Dapo Abiodun, because it was his government that actually allowed it to happen. Okay. So, yeah.
Nice. Yes, and take note
That's
also
a beautiful one.
Yes, George. Take note also that cholera is still ravaging the South. Now it's in Ogun State. It previously was Lagos. Now it is in Ogun. And numbers are increasing, deaths and cases jumping up every day. And George said something last time, when the government gives us a figure of like 3 people dead and all that, he says, it's way. George, what's all the,
that's because we don't have any
artificial
statistical analysis on how to collect all those information that is needed to give us an accurate number of people that are dying. Most people this, they just bury their own and then, cry. They don't report. Nothing happens, especially in certain rural areas. So, which is very, very sad, because not knowing exactly how it's spreading and how many people got it and how many people died will not bring that seriousness to the, the mentality and the belief system of the people, to ensure that they are watching what they do, the water they drink, the food they eat, and where they eat it from, and all those type of places. And this is how these things, do spread. But or when it comes to the federal government and the health department, I think they're quite effective to a degree that is very pleasing. Because when they're making this noise and then they announce and are making sure that people get the information and instructions are being given on how to correctly, live their lives and things to avoid and all those type of things, it will reduce, the spreading of this cholera disease. But it's very, very unfortunate that it's happening. I mean, it could happen anywhere. It could happen anywhere. But Nigeria has actually been very good when it comes to maintaining some of these pandemics and all these diseases and all that kind of stuff. So I really commend them. I commend them highly on that aspect, and let them continue to do what they are doing.
Okay, thank you, George. Let's do one African update. Yes, you all had the news yesterday, and it's still going on. Kenya is boiling. Kenya is boiling, real hot. The youths are not backing down. That's a picture of Obama's sister. Obama's sister was caught up in gas and tear gas and all that, and she had to speak out. She said she can't believe they are doing this. They should allow the youth to protest. The people protesting should be allowed to protest. Anyway, that's Obama's half-sister, former United States President Barack Obama, sister in Kenya. Femi, are you following the Kenya situation? Police are cracking down on anti-tax bill protesters, anti-tax.
Yeah. So and I'm an advocate of tax, and people keep on condemning me for it. But we need to look at this thing holistically. When President Ruto was elected, many people in Nigeria, especially in the opposition, were saying, "Look, this is the kind of president we should have. Look at the kind of president we elected. We elected Tinubu, blah blah blah, and we should have someone like Ruto, who is young, is dynamic, and is eloquent." Okay, but look what's happening now. The people in Kenya are not screaming Ruto. They're saying, down with Ruto. They want him out. Okay, so be careful what you wish for. That's one. The other thing is, they also, you got to remember that the government of Kenya is also struggling with the economy. They're in a deficit economy, just like Nigeria. Massive loans. They've got deficit funding problems, and they've got revenue problems. So they have no choice. They've got to raise revenue somehow. And if government wants to perform its functions, it can't, because it's struggling for cash. It's increased the taxes now legitimately through parliament, and it passed a law. It's a legitimate law. If you want to go against the law, if you
Raji, tell us. You were saying something about that whole protest. Yes. Let's hear you.
See, now, protests from citizens are almost always very, very legitimate expression of their frustrations, of their of seeming government disconnect with the people. Now, I would have hoped that the security forces will have managed the protest instead of turning it into a riot. Instead of turning it into a riot, they should have managed the process so that it doesn't become a mob action. Because traditionally, you find that the moment the security people come onto a protest, it becomes something else. It becomes a riot, and because of their mentality, you see, because they come into a protest where with the colonial mentality of enforcing the government on the people. Meanwhile, the government and the people are not in opposition. We are on the same side. The government was elected by the people, and if the people are protesting, the government shows listen. And it's nonsense to say that because there was a legitimate law, that the law to raise taxes was legitimate, I don't think that is a good point, because you can make laws that are not good, that are not legal, that are not, it may not be it may only be legal but not be beneficial to the people. And then about taxing, you can't tax the people to make them happy. No. If the government needs to spend money, look, let the government calm down and say, look, we have taken so much loans. What are we doing with all these loans? Where do we actually want to be? Are we playing catch up with the West? Our living conditions is completely different from the West. And therefore, let us live according to our own traditional precepts.
Yes.
And not to be taking loan to raise our level of cost of living or our standard of living.
Okay.
If our standard of living,
yes, George,
it is right. You know, I mean, the reason, part of the reason why the outrage and the protest is taking place, there are certain places, you know, if you go to some of these countries, some of the countries like where I live right now, they don't tax on food. When you go to the grocery store, there is no taxes. There are no taxes on food. And, you know, where for him to increase 16% on bread and those things that are actually will make the people's lives a little eased. And then you're taxing the transportation, taxing bread, 16% on bread. And what happens with that is the common people will rise up, because there is an international, there's a worldwide inflation after the pandemic. Nobody has completely recovered. So people are suffering. When you begin to tax certain things and impose taxes on certain areas, it will erupt what is going on. And listen to this though. You see, a lot of people, a lot of Africans, they're watching what is going on top because of the kind of lifestyle, you know, the ostentatious lifestyle that these people are living. Recently, Kenyan president made a trip to United States of America, you know, in an ostentatious type of way, though he came out to explain away the whole entire thing, that it cost him certain amount of money to take a jet to go there, and a private jet to go there, and all that kind of stuff. But the bottom line to it is this: we gotta be very sensitive to the needs and the welfare of the people. There are certain things that you will impose taxes on, it will erupt, and that is exactly what you're seeing here. Now, another situation is the 3%ers, the House, they can come up and say, okay, well, listen, we have a lot of money, you know, that we are owing outside, and we need to increase taxes in order to be able to offset these things. Then, if a good president comes out to talk to the people, believe me, a lot of times it happens. It happens here in Canada, whereby they are telling you, plain, go look at it. It's plain. You can see it there. There are certain areas that we need to do some things. When you talk to the public and give them an understanding, and then all of a sudden people become involved in the governance, and they understand that certain things need to be done, and then equitably and fairly you put the taxes where it's supposed to be. But when you allow the people on top to be living, good and ostentatiously, and nobody's saying anything, that's one of the problems.
Thank you, George. Viewers, you're still tuned to the Wednesday Global Africa update. Yes, thousands have poured out to the streets of Kenya, Nairobi yesterday, and they are demanding that lawmakers vote against the bills, the tax, the soaring tension.
Can I just finish my point, if you don't mind? Yeah, look, so I fully understand what all the others are saying, and I understand them fully. But what we are understanding is that we're in a democracy. In a democracy, you have to follow procedures. So if you are not happy with your legislators, you should convince them to vote otherwise. But if they decided to vote that way, and you can persuade them because they see that actually the imperative, what government is saying, is correct, and they follow that path, then you can challenge it in court. If you can't challenge it in court, you can protest, demonstrate legitimately, peacefully. But what we have in Kenya and Nairobi is not legitimate, peaceful demonstration. What we have is insurrection. We had a band of rampant youth who've gone on a rampage and a protest, supposedly peaceful, where they've burned down the parliament, just similar to what happened in America with the insurrection, where they attacked the the Capitol Hill. That can never be accepted by any democracy. And what has the government done? They've sent the police out there, they've sent the army out there, shooting live rounds, tear gas, water cannon. This is what we're saying. There is a difference between legitimate protests and violent, rampaging riots and insurrection. And so really, all those who are involved in this kind of violent attempt to overtake the government, because that's what it is, they're trying to impose their will. You have cycles of election. If you don't agree with what they've done, you have to wait for the next cycle of elections to get rid of that person. That's
they cannot wait until the next elections. They'll be dead before the next elections.
So we don't live in anarchy.
Government is forcing anarchy on the people. I can't allow you to continue with what you're saying.
I'm almost finishing my point.
And then blaming the people for rising up against oppression.
Okay, what I like about people who advocate this kind of line of action in Nigeria is that they will stoke that. They're already trying to stoke that in Nigeria. But what happens is that when the protests and the violent rampage and riots happen, they won't be at the forefront getting the bullet shots. You understand? They'll be sitting down in the studio. Those people, those poor kids who you've stoked to go and do it.
I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're saying.
Blood is on the streets.
You are just essential.
I have to meet you guys now. Interesting, but Femi did a good roundup of that thing. But Femi, take note that most times, miscreants, some group of people come to spoil a protest and jack it up and make it the what we see. You know, sometimes it's not real that the initial plan. You know, these people come in, they take it up. They pollute.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, Mark.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark. You see, normally people will not just rise up and start protesting unless there's something that is affecting their lives, that is threatening their very existence, and therefore they have a right. And they will not start going to give notice, because before even all those laws about raising taxes are coming, there'll be. The government himself will know that, look, what you are going to do may not be very, very good for the people.
Yes.
So
Raji, are you supporting Raji? Yes. I want to ask Raji one question. Raji, can I just ask him this question? I've already said it. Legitimate protest and demonstration for me is fine. But are you supporting them burning down the parliament in Kenya? Because that's not allowed at all. That's what I'm talking about. And those kind of people must face the full weight of the law.
I am not in Kenya.
Let's pull off the plug on today's program. We have the studio is giving me signal for 5 more minutes extra.
Okay, listen to this.
What about the bombing in Rivers? Bombing in Rivers.
No, we can't go out without talking about what they call the hashtag date, Chivido2024. Afrobeat star Davido wedded his longtime sweetheart Chioma Roland.
That's Olaika's comrades, the people that understand the beauty of Southeast. They are milking the beauties and the flavorful, ground produce of Igbo land. So that's what it is over there. So
Femi is going there soon too. Femi is taking one from that region too. That's why
Femi, are you joining?
Yeah, Femi is going soon. Femi, let's see clips from this beautiful event.
It was amazing though.
Yes.
Femo, welcome.
I'll be on the phone calling you tonight. I wanna make you show me. Make we know the fight. I know what.
These are some of the clips there, and also take note that some real big personalities were there. The governor of Osun State, Adeleke, was there.
That's the uncle now.
Oni of Ife.
That's the uncle.
I mean, you can't have the Oni move around like that if it's not something very, very special. So the Oni was there. Obasanjo, our former president, was there. And Femi, tell us, did you see that?
I think it was a great. Can you hear me? Yeah, it was a great event, and we thank.
Yeah, we can hear you.
These kind of events for me, like Raji is married to someone from the southeast, it's more showing to me the unity and the diversity of Nigeria. All these people doomsayers, Nigeria's finished and all this stuff, they're deceiving themselves. Yorubas are marrying Igbos, Igbos are marrying Yorubas. They're marrying Fulani, they're marrying Tibbs, everybody's intermarried. Nigeria is completely locked tight right now, and it's not going to destroy anytime soon. This is a celebration of Nigeria, and we should all support it and encourage it, and that's what we want, you know. No dogmatic, oh, I'm only going to marry my tribe, I'm only going to marry someone from my village. Half the time, those kind of marriages fail anyway. So you marry the person that you love, the person that treats is your sweetheart, the one that matters to you, and she or he can come from anywhere in this planet and anywhere in Nigeria.
So
I believe in one Nigeria and a better Nigeria.
Wait a minute.
Just one point.
Hold on, better Nigeria. Where is your eyes? Where are your eyes now? Where are they looking at? Tell us quickly. Give us a little. Come on, man. You have to.
That'll be cheated. Let me not tell everybody, but don't worry, we go talk.
May I put in one point?
That's why I'm holding on to Femio. He's going to be my in-law soon, you know. So now, thank you very much, Femi.
Yeah. In the beginning, Mark.
Yes.
Mark, may I talk?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Okay. In the beginning, it was necessary for a man who is getting married to another lady to know the background of the woman. That's why in the beginning, marriages were in the community. It is one family marrying another family. Now you have to check the family history of the woman you want to marry. And her family also check your own family history to know that maybe you don't have a hunchback in your family, or maybe an albino in the family, or maybe your grandfather was not caught stealing a goat, and all those family history that may affect the marriage. So that's why they have to know it, whether there was no excess in the family, no madness in the family, and all those things. That's why marriages were previously local, but now that we are in a global village, we can marry from anywhere. But let me
just add that
hold on.
Even though it's a global village.
Femo, 1 second. I just wanted to, because we've been talking about the men from Yoruba land marrying Igbos, but my nephew, Dr. Sonkene Ibanugo, was looking for a wife, and when one day he brought this young lady from Yoruba land, and after we had dinner and everything, I called him aside. I said, "That's your wife." And you covered live that wedding, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
For Mike Godwin. So you see, I really love that spirit that Femi is talking about, and you have it, Olayinka Raji. We are one. I believe in one Nigeria. I believe that Nigeria was divinely put together, because our differences. That's what our strength. Diversity is in differences, because we bring color and flavor from every part of Nigeria to make it what it is. So we should and must fight for Nigeria. But in doing so, let us make sure that every four corners of Nigeria are well represented, because these beautiful people called Igbo people are being just abused, just when it comes to politics. So let's give them opportunity also to bring beautiful governance to Nigeria. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you very much.
Can I just add one point on what Raji said? What Raji said is that even though they're not doing local marriages anymore, culture is still an important part of these marriages. Even if you marry someone from Anyoma or Ugulu or wherever, you're still you're gonna go to the bottom of find out about that family too. They have their particular cultures. So in fact, you have a crossing of cultures. So what they're doing and what you're doing, and you do it together. You go there, you produce, you give them the yams, the kolanut, or whatever their custom is, and then vice versa, they do it on the other side. So we share, and in fact, leads to greater understanding, because when we become to understand each other's culture, we understand each other's languages. We understand we're one. You understand? That's what it's all about.
Guys, you've all pulled the plug, and you pulled it off very well. Viewers, this is it. Wednesday, Global Africa. Let's be here Friday. We're talking WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is freed. Also, there's a news update that just flew in now. Femi, maybe you check that for us. El Rufai is going to stand trial for what he did as a governor of Kaduna State. El Rufai. So on this note, I want to thank you all for coming. Thank you, viewers, for being with us. Beautiful program, well insightful. We'll give you that update, and we've done it with Femi Okay from London, UK. We've done it with Raji from Lagos, Nigeria. We've done it with Sir George. Sir George, thank you. Waking up.
We're looking for El Rufai. What we're looking for El Rufai. I think the acts need to go back to eastern and southeast and begin to get the past governors that stole our money to bring it back. They need to be.
We're still looking for Yaya Bello. We're still looking for Yaya Bello. Where's Yaya Bello?
SSM's Wednesday Global Africa program brings to you our news stories, exclusive reporting, and SSM perspectives on the day's top news. Plus, the inside scoop on Africa's most important developing stories. Join us on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. West African time.